Majora's Mask, Chapter 6. The Final Day. Skull Kid, you're really going to kill people this time. It's not a game anymore.
I know.
His voice was cold. All tones of playfulness were gone. But think about it. The moon won't just destroy Clocktown. It'll destroy everything. The Skull Kid turned to face the purple fairy, floating just above the clock tower's peak. He tilted his head to the side as if not understanding what Tail had said. The mask's still, orange eyes were ice. Tattle, my sister, do you remember her? Your friend. You're going to kill her too.
I don't care about your sister.
The clear, bright sky did not match the aura of death surrounding the moon just above them. The few townsfolk left below them were ants.
I don't care about anyone down there. I want them all to die. They're dumb things.
What happened to you?
Nothing. You're the one who's trying to ruin my fun. But I won't let you stop me, and I won't let you leave. Someone's gotta survive all of this with me.
Tail retreated backward. You're really going to kill all of them?
Yes.
Why?
Why not?
He laughed, chuckling loudly as everyone below them took in their final hours of daylight.
It's time to wake up, Link!
The Deku scrub had the covers pulled over his head. His sleep had been restful but short, and waking up proved rather difficult. He moaned.
5 more minutes,
he thought groggily. He expected to find Navi in his Kokiri house. He'd be a man, grown at 17, and they'd start their day cutting more evil Deku Babas from the forest.
I'm not ready,
Link thought.
Tell Mito to do it instead.
However, he opened his eyes to find the underside of a hotel bedsheet. He was in Clocktown, a town which he'd never heard of 3 days ago. He was with a fairy that wasn't necessarily his own, and there was a giant rock floating above their heads, slowly creeping toward them.
Link, it's almost noon,
Tattle said from outside the covers.
Don't you think we should be doing something? I feel useless just sitting here and waiting for the clock tower to open, don't you?
No,
Link murmured.
Resting is doing something. I don't want to pass out from exhaustion walking up the staircase.
Tattle scoffed.
Huh, well, 6 hours is plenty. How much sleep could a little thing like you need anyways?
Link threw the sheets away and glared at the fairy floating by the bedstand.
We're still on joking, slap each other on the shoulder, playful terms, right?
Link didn't answer and slipped out of bed instead. He turned to look out the small windows of the knife chamber. The sun confirmed Tattle's noontime declaration.
What should we do?
He asked.
The only thing I've landed on is to not sleep the day away.
Have they ordered an evacuation yet?
Link asked, turning from the window and going over to the drawers.
I don't think so, but I doubt they will if they haven't yet.
It'd make me feel better if I knew no one was left in town when, well, you know.
He slipped on his boots, though the one pierced by the skulltula still had a hole. The bandages on his left arm had been freshly changed, and he no longer had to cradle the wound. It doesn't even hurt anymore, he thought. The astronomer must have had exceptional healing materials. The bruises and scrapes along his body were already fading, too.
We can go talk to the mayor if you'd like. His office should be open.
If that'll satisfy your urge to do something.
He stopped when he opened the wrong drawer and found his hat. Link picked it up to thoughtfully trace the long green fabric. It doesn't feel right to leave it here when I confront the Skull Kid, Link thought. He slipped it on, opened the drawer he'd meant to, and grabbed some money. The mayor's office was on the elevated side district to East Clocktown, near the sewer alleyway. Link passed through the front door to find a nicely decorated lobby, furnished with paintings of mountains and lively flowers. A receptionist greeted him from behind the desk against the far wall. A small replica of the clock tower's face was just above the young woman's head, turning as it ticked away the hours remaining. She looked down at the little Deku scrub accompanied by a fairy, smiling.
Oh, look at you! Are you looking for your parents?
No.
Link said. His efforts to deepen his voice failed. It didn't help that he was also a head shorter than the countertop.
We need to see the mayor.
Well, he's a pretty busy man.
The receptionist responded condescendingly.
He has to make some big grown-up choices today.
Listen, lady,
Tattle said. The smile immediately faded from the receptionist's face.
We don't have time for your baby crap. If you think he's cute, you can flirt with him when the moon isn't about to slam into your pretty little face and everyone else you know.
The woman had nothing to say to that.
Which door can we find the mayor in?
When she raised her arm and pointed at the door to her right, Tattle flew off without another word. Link followed her, smiling.
It's pretty great when I'm not the one you're mad at.
I can't stand people that treat everyone smaller than them like a joke,
Tattle said, fully aware that she was still within hearing range of the stunned receptionist.
Trust me, I know how you feel. I deal with the "you're too small to be taken seriously" crap all the time. Oh, look, a pretty little fairy. Let's go play Magic Princess with her. Nope, wrong. Sorry.
Tattle stopped her rant when she noticed Link looking up at her.
What are you smiling at?
Nothing.
He remarked, turning to open the door.
Let's just go see the mayor before the receptionist changes her mind.
The mayor's office wasn't anything too impressive. There were bookshelves against the back wall on either side of a grand window. A desk was the main feature, sitting on top of a red rug and overflowing with papers and trinkets. A man with long, slick-back purple hair, a purple mustache, and a crimson set of fine robes sat at it. The mayor. 2 guards stood on the right side of the desk, while 2 of the carpenters, among them the leader, stood on the left. The guards and the carpenters were regarding each other with contempt, but the mayor in the middle seemed uncertain about everything. None of them noticed the Deku Scrub and Fairy. They walked in while the guard closer to the table spoke passionately. His distinguished armor identified his higher rank, a red cape over his shoulders and a gold plate on his helmet. Most of the townsfolk already have taken shelter without waiting for the mayor's orders. The only ones left are public servants and committee members. Mr. Mayor and Carnival committee members, please order those who remain to evacuate. Well, the mayor stammered, scratching his head and looking directly at the 2 intruders without seeing them. The leader of the carpenters interrupted before the mayor could answer. Link's body tensed at the sound of his voice. Stupid animal, he'd said on Link's first day here. You cowards, he exclaimed now. Do you actually believe the moon will fall? The confused townsfolk simply caused a panic by believing this ridiculous, groundless theory. The soldiers couldn't prevent the panic, but outside the town walls is where the danger is. You want answers. The answer is that the carnival should not be canceled. Isn't that right, Mr. Mayor? I think that... Well... Huh? Are you serious, Muto? Exclaimed the high-ranked guard. It's my job as captain of the guard to oversee the people's safety, and it seems that giant chunk of rock above us hasn't caught your eye. At this time every year, we are overrun by tourists, so why is the town empty? The leader of the carpenters, Muto, merely stood there, staring at the captain with narrowed eyes. Clearly, it's your job to ensure the carnival's operation, but that's if people are here for it. Don't drag the merchants and soldiers into this. That's a good, but If the soldiers wish to run, then run, Bison, exclaimed Muto, interrupting the mayor yet again. We councilmen will stick to tradition. This carnival will be a success. I've never heard of a defense unit abandoning its town. The captain's face turned bright red, but Muto continued before he could retaliate. Madame Aroma would surely say the same thing, wouldn't she, Mayor Dutour? Let's not bring my wife into this. Mayor Dutour pleaded, sighing as he put his head on the desk in surrender. Hey! Muto suddenly exclaimed. This time, he addressed neither the mayor nor the captain. Link jumped in shock to find their eyes on him. Didn't I tell you to leave me alone, kid?
I came to speak to the mayor.
Link stammered. Oh, yeah? Muto said, laughing. And what do you think we should do? Link gulped, suddenly finding his throat rather dry. What a great idea, Muto said. Did you hear that, Mayor? He thinks we should evacuate. Oh, please, Muto, said the mayor. He's just a child. Yet he speaks more sense than you, Muto, said Captain Bison. More sense than me? Maybe you should have put Deku Scrubs in charge of the carnival. He paused, feigning a response from the captain. Wait, what? That's right. You put me in charge because I'm not an animal.
Listen, you rotten, good-for-nothing sack of dog barf!
Tattle suddenly exclaimed, turning everyone's heads instantly. Muto dared a wicked smile. Are you talking to me, Twinklebell? Oh, Nehru, the mayor's office has turned into a barn! Tattle left Link's side and stopped an inch from Muto's face.
You're the animals sacrificing all the guards so that you can have your stupid tradition to den with tradition. There's a ball of rock bigger than your oversized head coming straight toward the stack of twigs you have built in South Clocktown.
Tattle backed down, satisfied for the moment, and turned to the mayor.
You know what? Don't order the evacuation. I'd pay front row seats to see this guy's grin leave his face when the moon comes down all over his bloated ego.
Bison, Dotor, Muto, Link, and the other two men in the room had no response to the string of insults that had just flown from Tattle's mouth.
Come on, Link, she said, flying back to his side. Let's go.
The Deku Scrub didn't hesitate and left the awkward moment of silence quickly.
Tattle?
Link said as they walked back to the lobby.
That was amazing!
She managed to smile in response.
You haven't seen anything yet.
Link and Tattle stood in the middle of East Clocktown's plaza, as if lost. There was no one to buy food from. They were alone. Everyone else had fled. The ground vibrated once again, a small earthquake. It only lasted a few seconds, but the moon's proximity was physically affecting the town. Though it had yet to cause damage, it was unnerving to be rattled up and down. The hunger in his stomach turned to fear. A family ran out of a building in the square. They juggled the possessions they could carry, frantically running for the town gate. He didn't blame them. It was the third earthquake of the day. Link felt taunted by the fact that he could run just as easily. Surely the guard would allow him to run for his life, even if he were defenseless. But I can't leave, can I? Link turned around to look at the time on the giant clock tower. The moon appeared to rest on it like a stone bust on a column. It was 1:34. In less than 17 hours, Clocktown would be rubble. The Deku Scrub, however, didn't think he could last that long without something to eat. He turned to face the fairy, who was occupied by her own thoughts.
Tattle, isn't there anywhere we can get food?
Tattle stammered, exiting her train of thought.
Maybe we can pay Anju to take some food from the Stockpot's kitchen. Since it's the end of the world, I'm sure she'll make an exception, especially for us.
Link had told Tattle everything about his second-day adventures. The fairy had been the more hesitant of the two to divulge exactly what she'd been doing. When they entered the hotel lobby, Anju was behind the front desk. She looked sad as she folded papers to pack them away, put them in drawers, or merely dropped them in a waste bin. There was a travel bag open on the counter.
Are you leaving, Anju?
Link asked, trying to hide his disappointment as he walked up to the front desk. Anju smiled faintly at the Deku Scrub, but did not look up from her work.
Shouldn't you be leaving too?
She asked. Link didn't answer. He wasn't sure how to.
Or, are you going to stay here? Did you find who's doing this to the moon?
Link found no mockery in her voice. Unlike the guards at the town gates, Anju actually believed he could do something about this. He nodded.
We're going to a ranch a few miles outside of town for shelter, with friends and family. If you wanted to come, you'd be welcome to.
I'm not sure how a ranch a few miles outside of town will protect you, Link thought, but he kept that to himself.
Thank you, Anju, but we're staying. We actually wanted to know if we could use your hotel after you leave, until it's time.
Oh, Anju replied. I guess all the other food stalls will be closed by now. I'll leave you the keys to the hotel and some food in the kitchen, if you want.
That'd be great,
Tattle thanked. There was a moment of silence afterward, but Anju opened a drawer behind her desk without saying anything else. She pulled out a ring of jingling keys, holding them low over the counter so Link could reach them.
Please don't forget,
she said as he reached up for them.
If you ever change your mind, don't hesitate to take shelter with us.
Link's small hands closed around the keys and brought them down to his side.
And Link...
Yes?
Good luck.
The town bell broke the town's heavy silence. Its solemn note was no longer stifled by the everyday noises of busy townsfolk. Only those willing to face the morning of the carnival together remained. The mailman, Muto, the mayor and his wife, the bartender in the milk bar, the owner of the curiosity shop, and one guard at each gate. A Deku Scrub sat on the roof of the hotel. His small, wood-textured back leaned against the long fence, looking over the town wall that separated east from South Clocktown. The clock tower's wooden wheel remained ever turning. The day blazed behind it, a fiery orange as it disappeared below the skyline. A fairy floated by his side. They both took in the horizon's powerful golden rays.
I'm scared, Link,
Tattle confided.
I don't want this to be the last time I ever see the sun.
The moon was baffling. It was now visibly bigger than Clocktown, steadily drifting closer to obscure most of the sky. Its menacing gaze did not acknowledge Tattle's plea, unconcerned with the blood it would spill. Another earthquake shook the ground. The hotel rumbled underneath them as the moon rattled its prey.
Me neither,
Link squeaked.
Should we go to the ranch with Anju? I know the way.
The ranch won't save us, Tattle. Nowhere's safe. We have to stop it, or no one else will.
But what if we can't, Link? What if we don't stop him and we die?
Then we'll die together, knowing we did everything we could, rather than dying in fear and hiding.
Tattle didn't say anything else. Instead, she floated closer to Link until she was resting on the Deku Scrub's shoulder, nestling her head close. They watched the sunset together. The final rays of light narrowed into a fine, thin beam that left the town in twilight. The sun was gone, and the sky only grew darker from then on. And the orange eyes did not waver. Link lay on the hotel bed while staring at the ceiling, as he had the second and third mornings. Tattle was unable to relax at all, flying around the room nervously. Eventually, she cracked.
"It's almost time," she said. Shouldn't we do something? Link, are you listening to me? There are only a few minutes left.
Do you want to go then?
Tattle was trembling. He could tell even from within her ball of light.
Yes, I'm tired of being inside. All of these earthquakes are unnerving when you can't see how close the moon is.
Then let's go.
Link slipped off the bed. His feet hit the floor as they had multiple times during his stay at the Stockpot Inn. He wondered if he would ever do it again. If the moon fell, then, for obvious reasons, he wouldn't. But what would happen if he did stop it from falling? One thing at a time, Link thought. He made sure his long hat and bandages were on snugly, tightened his boots to his feet, and then crossed the floor to exit the hotel room, not bothering to grab any money. The fairy followed him as Link's footsteps echoed through the empty building. Only the ticking of the lobby's clock filled the silence otherwise. Anju was not there to greet them when they passed around the corner. And that was when Link realized that it was really happening. The final battle, he realized. He and Tattle would walk up to the tower with no one there to support them. They would have to do it on their own, and they were going off pure nerve and instinct. When they ventured into the main plaza, they crossed it as if dreaming. As with everywhere else, it was abandoned. The torches lit the plaza only because the carpenter had insisted on doing so. They passed under the crackling light, the moon always prevalent in their peripheral. They walked down the staircase into South Clocktown, where the clock tower stood tall. Link stood directly in front of it, the tall wooden structure that the carpenters had built, a monument to the carnival time, remained several feet behind him. In front of it stood Muto, arms across his chest, still surrounded by an aura of arrogance. The Deku Scrub's neck was craned back, attempting to take in the full height of the original stone tower and moon at the same time. He stood there for a couple of minutes, Tattle floating by his side and doing the same. The carpenter waited behind them, curiously watching.
So, you decided to stay after all.
Link and Tattle turned to face him against their better judgment.
We were never going to leave, Tattle answered. We're going up there to stop it.
Muto laughed.
It's not going to fall.
Are you serious?
Tattle exclaimed.
The truth is literally about to come crashing on top of your head, and you still won't accept it.
It's not going to fall,
Muto exclaimed angrily this time.
Cowards, all of you! If you're gonna fall, then fall already!
Tattle almost spoke again, but Link stopped her.
Just ignore him. If we keep giving him Earth.
The loud, sharp pitch cut through what Link was saying, and then there were explosions popping brilliantly around the clock tower. Fireworks! The dazzling colors exploded with fanfare and jubilation, but the ecstatic cheers of the people were absent. There was no longer a cause for celebration. The black sphere on top of the clock tower, with the beam of light cutting through the night, rose into the air. It traveled on a thick wooden beam extending from the roof. It grew taller, and as Link looked up in awe, he thought for a second that it would touch the moon. It came just short of the rock. When it reached its maximum height, the extended lighthouse tottered, as if it would snap off and crash to the ground. A small earthquake started at the same time, dangerously teetering the clock tower head. When the quake ended, the stone ball fell over, coming down and swinging around so that the wooden clock face aimed at the sky. It stopped when it was exactly parallel. The ball that had once been the searchlight was now aligned to the ground. The massive wheel of time was now the roof. The doorway above the clock tower's entrance opened automatically, sliding out of sight and revealing a slightly higher door behind it. That door slid down so that it stopped just above where the last had, revealing yet another door. The procession of doors continued onward until each, slightly higher than the last, made a staircase that cut upward through the tower. It led to the new roof of the clock tower, open to the sky and directly beneath the moon. The fireworks stopped. The last fizzles of light dissipated before they reached the ground, and Link and Tattle were now standing in front of the open clock tower. On the night of the final day, 6 hours remained.
Are we actually doing this?
Link wondered. A moment of doubt paralyzed him, and another earthquake shook the ground, this time longer and more severe.
Link,
Tattle said.
are you ready?
Despite the terror rooting him to the spot, Link nodded.
I'm glad I have you for this, Deku Head,
The fairy said.
I'd still be trapped underneath Clocktown if it wasn't for you, no matter what happens. Thank you for everything, and I'm sorry, because I know leaving you wasn't the only thing I did.
It's okay, Tattle. You came back. That's all that matters.
Tattle managed to smile.
Well, come on, Deku Brain. We've got a world to save.
Link and Tattle ran for the yellow Deku flower, and his feet naturally slipped into its opening until his whole body was submerged. He burst from its surface, carrying a flower in each hand. The petals twirled like propellers as he flew toward the platform with the new staircase. The petals closed just in time, and Link landed lightly on the upper platform. The doorway where he'd first entered Clocktown was just beneath him. The Deku Scrub and the fairy each shared a glance before turning to continue up the staircase. There they walked, side by side, to confront the dark magic. They climbed to the top of the tower in the center of Clocktown, its face now done ticking away their final minutes of freedom. The carnival had arrived. Link stepped onto the wooden surface of the clock's face. It was a massive stage hewn for the final act. He had never seen it this closely before. The colorful lines crisscrossed to frame strange faces, wings, and ocean water, intricately designed to catalog the odd wonders of this land. The clock face's tick-marked rims were taller than the Deku Scrub and made a circular wall, blocking everything below them from view. The sky's dark red glow ominously veiled everything with an unspoken threat. The rock was not even 500 feet above Link's head. The Skull Kid was there too, floating in between the moon and the clock face. He appeared deep in thought from the top of his nest. As Tattle settled beside Link, the masked Skull Kid turned to notice them. Link's eyes went to the object in the imp's hand. The Ocarina of Time! Link realized. The child casually tossed the instrument up and down. He remained floating in leisure with the end of the world above him. 2 pairs of threatening orange eyes stared down at the Deku Scrub at once. The Skull Kid remained silent, as if daring them to speak first, or daring them to make fools of themselves.
I have complete control over the situation.
That mask communicated without a word.
I'm gonna crush you. Why did you even waste your time coming up here?
Sis!
The purple fairy flew to reveal himself from behind the Skull Kid.
Tail!
Tattle exclaimed from beside Link. The Skull Kid did not offer anything in reply but his continual glare. Link's fairy tried to be diplomatic anyways.
We've been looking for you two.
Still, nothing. Tattle gulped.
Hey, Skull Kid, what if you gave that mask you're wearing back now? Hey, come on. Are you listening?
Tail flew from the imp's reach and hastily spat out a warning. Swamp, mountain, ocean, canyon. Hurry, the 4 who are there. Bring them here. Tail meant to say more, but the Skull Kid slapped him into submission with the back of his hand.
Ah! Don't speak out of line, stupid fairy!
In that moment, his voice became deep, powerful, and commanding, filling the air with unbelievable malice and horror. It did not belong to a child. It did not belong to anything capable of empathy. The town bell continued tolling below in celebration of the carnival.
Stop!
Tattle yelled.
Don't touch my brother like that! Skull Kid, do you still think you're our friend? After everything you've done?
The Skull Kid went back to a position of luxury, floating in place and tossing the ocarina.
Well, whatever, he said. Even if they were to come now, they wouldn't be able to handle me. Just look above you! It's going to kill and destroy everything,
Tattle said.
You don't know what you're doing! You can't! We won't let you do this!
The Skull Kid chuckled.
If it's something that can be stopped, then just try to stop it.
And then he stopped tossing the ocarina, threw his hands into the air, and screamed. It was a horrible, bestial screech that pierced the sky as waves of light flew from the Skull Kid's arms. Tail tried to fly away, but the spell caught him in its grip, trapping him in place. The magical lights cascaded upward, rippling over the surface of the moon. The magic power continued to flow from his arms to the moon, and everything shook. The moon, the ground, the clock tower. The moon plummeted to the ground faster than it ever had before, robbing them of the few hours remaining. It would take less than a few minutes before they were all flattened. The Skull Kid continued to shake as he summoned the moon to finish the job. Tattle exclaimed. Her brother was still trapped, though thankfully unharmed in the magical prison.
Link, do something! Look what's happening! It's coming down right now!
She panicked, flying back and forth in front of Link frantically. The tower didn't stop shaking. Link heard groaning from far, far below. It sounded like wood and stone popping. The tower's going to fall, he realized. The Deku Scrub and Fairy stood helplessly between it all.
Link, you have to stop him!
What am I supposed to do?
Link yelled back, looking over at Tattle with nothing but fear.
Use your bubble thing!
Oh! Link remembered. He turned to the Skull Kid and summoned all the power he could. The green bubble formed at his snout, shaking madly as Link trembled and the ground shook. He released it, and Tattle and Link watched as it soared through the air and popped over the imp. The Skull Kid stopped screaming when the goop exploded all over him. The spell ended abruptly, and something else fell from his hand, spinning toward the clock's face. The blue ocarina landed only a few feet from Link, hardly making a noise when it hit the wooden surface. Link sprinted toward the flute as the imp sluggishly flicked the poison off.
You did it!
However, it didn't take her long to realize that the moon was still pulling itself closer to the clock tower. It hadn't slowed down at all. Her excitement died, and she turned to see Link, enraptured by the instrument.
Link, what are you doing?
His fingers traced the smooth, oceanic surface of his lost ocarina. It was still beautiful. The Skull Kid hadn't damaged it. He smiled, somehow forgetting the moon was about to kill him. I have it back! My last connection to Hyrule!
Snap out of it! What are you doing? Lost in memories? Get yourself together! I was wrong! The moon's still falling! Getting that old ocarina back isn't going to help us!
Link looked up to Tattle as if exiting a trance, but he brought the ocarina to his mouth regardless. When he tried to seal his lips around the mouthpiece, he couldn't. He was still a cursed Deku Scrub, and he wasn't sure how to play with a large open snout.
Link, don't give up on me!
The ground shook again, and the groaning at the bottom of the clock tower only got worse.
Shush!
They turned to find Tail free from his prison. The purple fairy flew for his sister as the Skull Kid suddenly screamed with rage. The same light as before exploded from the imp, this time vaporizing the green muck coating him. Pure anger was etched into the Skull Kid's shaking body as he looked down, scanning the change of events quickly. The first thing he saw was Tail reuniting with his sister. It was quick and sudden. The Skull Kid threw out his arm as if throwing a ball. Neither Link nor Tattle saw what traveled through the air to hit the fairy. Tail gave a quick, sharp shriek, "Ah!" and his ball of light went out. Tail's tiny, winged body drifted to the wooden surface, just short of reaching his sister. "Ah! Ah, Tail!" screeched Tattle, flying to her brother's body. "Tail! Please! Tail! Do something! Wake up and say something, Tail! Tail!" The small gray fairy, no bigger than a human's hand, didn't respond. Tattle's enraged eyes found the Skull Kid. "You killed my brother! You monster! You killed him!" The Skull Kid didn't say anything. Instead, he laughed maniacally, leaning back in the air and pointing his finger. Link turned back to the ocarina in his hands. Tattle's cries of pain and the Skull Kid's laugh felt distant. "I can't play it! After all I did to get it back, it won't save us!" The shaking took a turn for the worse. The clock tower swayed. The moon was now only feet away from ending everything. Link stumbled on his feet, trying to catch his balance as Tattle looked up from her dead brother. The Skull Kid only laughed harder, flying away from underneath the moon as it delivered its final blow.
Link, we have to get out of here now. There's nothing left we can do. We need more time. Stop looking at that ocarina. Let's go.
You can leave, Tattle.
Link said, allowing the arm that held his ocarina to rest at his side.
You can leave without me and never get hurt.
No,
Tattle said, her voice shaking with tears and adrenaline.
I'm not losing you two. We're in this together.
A smile flickered across Link's face amidst the chaos, and Tattle returned it, despite everything. That was when the moon's force became too great. The clock tower leaned in one direction and didn't rebalance itself. The great stone structure toppled over. Link stumbled with it, ocarina still in hand. The clock face left from underneath his feet as the tower's top half began toppling into South Clocktown. The bottom half remained rooted to the ground securely while the rest rained down over it. Link was in freefall. His hands wildly reached for something that wasn't there. He fell back, descending among the fallen black stones. Tattle kept herself airborne as the Deku Scrub was torn away from her.
Link!
The Deku Scrub lost his stomach as he spun. His screams were inaudible over the earthquakes and crumbling tower. He fell past the clock face, which did not immediately slide from its crumbling supports. The wooden disc cut through the air last, eventually falling right toward Link. Tattle flew into the chaos to reach her companion. Link's fall ended abruptly when he hit the platform above the tower's entrance. His body crumpled inward. Unbelievable pain shot through his limbs and back. The Skulltula's injury was nothing in comparison. Heavy debris rained all around him, threatening to break even more of his body. And then there was the wooden wheel of time behind it all, beaming straight for him.
Link!
Tattle exclaimed again. Still a few feet away, he barely saw her amidst the falling stones in his blurred vision.
It's coming right toward you! Hurry!
He managed to roll partially out of the way. There was a sickening crack as the clock face wedged directly through the platform. The impact tossed Link skyward so that he plummeted straight into the plaza. The ocarina flew from his hand, and Link landed painfully into the middle of the square. He noted the abandoned carpenter's tower. Muto was no longer there. Link didn't have enough life left to scream, and the debris kept raining down. The moon had replaced the top of the clock tower, where he'd been standing just moments ago. A red haze surrounded it as the sky began to bake with heat. Link watched Tattle flying to join him, but behind her, the platform he'd been flung from was sliding off the clock tower. The wheel was still halfway driven into it, groaning as the impact's high pressure threatened to give way. "It's gonna land right in front of us!" Link realized. It's gonna kill us both! He couldn't do anything but shake, however, his snout trembling just short of speech. He felt the stone ground already wet with his blood.
Oh, damn, Link!
Tattle exclaimed.
You have to get up! Please, please get up!
She was hardly intelligible or even audible. The Deku Scrub's eyes stared wide with horror. Given that everything was one giant roar of noise, Tattle must not have noticed the bomb of debris behind her.
Tattle!
He finally managed.
Look out, you!
Tattle turned around, but she was too late. The strain of the wooden wheel wedged into the platform reached a climax when it hit the ground. The wood violently shattered into millions of pieces, and they showed no mercy. Tattle was instantly bombarded with bullet-like shards, and Link curled into a ball to protect his face. He could feel fresh cuts ripping into his arms and stabbing him just like the spider's leg. Several moments passed, and Link remained huddled into his ball as the roaring continued, but the noise of falling debris ceased. He slowly and carefully left his protective ball. Everything hurt. His head spun. He was surrounded by an ocean of wood and stone. Link found one small, white ball lying on top of a shattered plank in the middle of the pile. The Deku Scrub crawled over to her, hardly registering the fresh cuts that opened beneath him. He laid himself gently beside the fairy.
Tattle!
Link squeaked. Her ball of light hadn't gone completely dim, but she was silent. He scooped his fingers underneath her so that she rested in the palm of his hand. Link brought her up to his face, shuddering.
Tattle!
He repeated. The fairy's light flickered, threatening to give out for good.
Don't die.
It doesn't really hurt.
She whispered to him softly.
Dying?
Link's lips quivered. Dying. He realized. She's right. That's all there's left to do. The sky was fire. A huge ball of it surrounded the moon. It was moments away from the city's walls. The ground shook madly. The air was ablaze. And the fairy and Deku Scrub sweated profusely as they bled out. Noise was a deafening roar. This was the end of the world. The fire would scorch them alive before it destroyed Clocktown, and then, when it hit the ground, the resulting explosion would wipe out all the land surrounding this one. And there they were, underneath it all. Link shook as he tried to fight back any tears.
Thank you for not leaving me.
He struggled to say into his hand.
No problem. Deku Head?
Her light had almost left her, and Link whimpered at the near-lifeless body in his hand. It was as puny as Tails had been. He brought the fairy close to his chest as tears left his eyes.
I'm sorry. I couldn't save you.
Tattle made an incomprehensible noise in response, but she could muster nothing else. Link turned his green-hatted head away from Tattle, squeezing his eyes closed. Everything was so hot and dry, it made crying hard. When he opened them and looked around, something other than ruin caught his eye. The blue ocarina, lying in the debris not but a few feet away. Link struggled to crawl across the pile with Tattle in his hand, one stride of the arm after the other until he finally reached it. He lay on his side and picked up the ocarina with his free hand. Link rested the fairy on his scarred chest and lay on his back, now content with never moving again. He brought the ocarina to his face and wiped off little chips of wood. His fingers found a crack in its surface. I'm never going to see Zelda again, Link realized. He looked up when he heard the town walls crumbling. The moon had entered the city. The great white stone tumbled downward, crashing into the plaza and spilling over the square, bright red and scorched. Link hardly took notice and brought the instrument to his snout. He blew with what little strength he had left without perfectly sealing the mouthpiece. It worked better than he thought it would, and the open note flowed beautifully through the holes. The Deku Scrub closed his eyes restfully, at peace with himself as his fingers played a melody from Hyrule. The song took him back to the verdant green hills, to the beautiful shining sun, to the small villages filled with light. Tattle twitched on his chest, as if soothed by the melody. Link's swan song comforted them both. He guided them into the dark abyss they fell deeper into, willingly and helplessly. He wanted it to happen now, before the fire had to do it. And so he fell back, welcoming it, as he huddled together with his fairy on the pile of debris. The sky of fire was gone. The moon tearing down the town walls was no longer there, and the noises faded into silence. A ringing noise filled his ears as his limbs tingled with numbness. An empty void surrounded him as he descended through the dark chasm of time.